Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. In the previous video we started talking about the feature patterns and we talked about why feature patterns are more preferred among designers compared to the sketch patterns, and we talked about the rectangular feature pattern. In this video we're going to talk about the circular, mirror, and sketch driven feature patterns. So let's start with the circular feature pattern. Let's start a 2D sketch on XY plane and draw a center point circle and assign 100 millimeters for the diameter. Right click, finish 2D sketch, right click, extrude, apply 10 millimeter extrusion, and now we have this basic 3D object. Create a new sketch on this face, and let's place a center point circle somewhere here. And let's dimension that we want it to be fully defined. Let's say this is 20 millimeters to this way, 20 millimeters to this way, and we use the origin point for this. And let's say for the diameter it's 10 millimeters. And let's finish this sketch, apply extrusion to it. This time we don't want to add material, we want to cut. And we want to cut through all, so it removes all the material on its path. Let's click OK. Now we have the initial extrusion 1, which created the basic 3D object. And for the extrusion 2, we created this hole. Now we want to create a circular pattern of this feature, of this hole. Click on the circular pattern feature. The first information we have to assign, we have to give to the inventor is the feature. We can select the hole, which is extrusion 2 from the browser tree, or we can come to the 3D object and highlight the feature we want the pattern, which is the hole. And I just selected the hole. Now the second information we have to provide is the rotation axis. I can come to origin folder and I can select x-axis, y-axis, or z-axis. But X and Y axis are not the ones that I'm looking for. Z axis is going through the middle of the part from the origin point, and it can act as the rotation axis because I want to take this hole and rotate around this axis. But I don't have to select it from the browser tree. I also have this drop down menu here, and I can also have access to X axis, Y axis, and Z axis, so I can select the Z axis here as well. Notice that as soon as I selected the rotation axis, now I have placement and orientation sections available to me. Now the default occurrence count is 6. I can change that to 3 and see the preview of the pattern. I can change it to 15. I can change it to 10. I can change it to 7. And you can basically instantly the preview changes, and then you can inspect and can see if that's what you want. And the occurrence angle is 360 degrees. I can change that to 180. I can change that to 270. I can change it to 100. I can change it to 90. And then you can see how the preview of the pattern changes as well. Let's change it to 180. And I also have the flip button available to me here. You can select it and the rotation direction of the rotation changes. Right now I can see how it affects my design because it is only covering 180 degrees. But of course, if I change that to 360 degrees, and flipping the rotation direction will not make any difference in the design because it is covering the entire 360 degrees. Now let's go back to 180 degrees, and I also have the midplane option here, which is also something we had in the rectangular feature pattern. When you click on that, it is just a toggle, by the way. It will use the feature you are using to create the pattern as the midplane, and it will place 3 holes on one side and 3 holes on the other side, and total of 7 holes will be placed equally spaced using the circular feature pattern. Again, it's just a toggle, so we can just turn that off and go back to 360 degrees and click OK and select create this circular pattern. Now the circular pattern 1 is created in the browser tree. I have a plus sign next to it. I can expand that and highlight each occurrence and inspect the pattern. I have the features folder here. I can expand that and see which feature was used to create the pattern. So now we used the z-axis, but we didn't have to do that. I want to show another way to select the rotation axis. Let's delete the circular pattern. Click on circular pattern again, select the feature. Now for the rotation axis, again, I don't have to select the z-axis. I can also select the outer round edge, outer round surface. Now that is also going to give me the rotation axis in the middle with the blue dotted line. And now I can also enter 7 for the occurrence, keep it at 360 and click OK. I'm intentionally not talking about orientation right now because design really doesn't change when you are trying to pattern a hole. We're going to talk about it in a second. Let's click OK and accomplish the same 3D geometry. And sometimes you do not have the z-axis or x-axis or y-axis going through right in the middle of the part. And sometimes you do not maybe want to use this outer face round surface because maybe you don't want to use the rotation axis from the middle. Maybe you want to create a pattern on one side of the face, not based on the rotation axis in the middle. So in that case, you might want to create your own work axis and work with that as the rotation axis. So let's delete the circular pattern and give an example for that. And to be able to accomplish that, I need to create another 2D sketch on this face, and I need to place a point. Let's say I place a point right here and dimension it 10 millimeters away to this way and 10 millimeters away on this way. Now it is fully defined. Let's finish that sketch. I have the work axis option available to me under the work features. Feel free to go back to the work features video in this tutorial and watch that if you want to remind yourself how to use these features. Click on work axis, select the face and select the point, and that is going to give you work axis 1 here based on the point you placed on this face. And notice that work axis 1 is also generated in the browser tree. Now I can use that as my rotation axis and create my circular feature pattern. Click on the circular pattern, select the feature for the rotation axis, select the work axis you created, and click OK. Now the circular feature pattern is created not based on the work axis going through the origin of the part, but it is working based on using the work axis we created on a specific location we assigned with the sketch and this point. And also work axis 1 and sketch 3 are going to be visible. Of course, if you want to make them invisible, you can just right click and uncheck visibility. These are also like multiple ways to create a circular pattern. But of course, it's not just the hole that you want to create a circular pattern of, right? So let's delete this. Let's delete the work axis, sketch, and the hole. And now let's design a new sketch on this face and let's project the geometry and create a 2-point rectangle. Let's say it's something like this. This time I'm not going to dimension it. I'm going to finish the sketch and I'm going to apply extrusion to it. Let's say it's just 10 millimeters. And now I can create a circular pattern of this. When I click on circular pattern, again, it wants me to select the feature. It wants me to select the rotation. Let's select the z-axis. I can create this circular pattern of this 3D shape, this tab that's sticking out. Let's go back into that circular pattern. I can now also talk about the orientation selection because if it was a hole, it wouldn't have made any sense. If I wouldn't see any change in the design. But now that this is a rectangular shape that we added with that extrusion, now I can look at the difference between rotational and fixed orientation. This is the rotational orientation. I can change it to fixed. Now notice how the preview of the pattern changes. This is also another option we have available in the circular feature pattern. Let's just go back to rotational and click OK. And I want to also talk about selecting multiple features to create the pattern because it is so important to be more efficient with our design. Let's delete the circular pattern. Let's intentionally try to complicate this piece here. Maybe let's add a hole. Maybe it's a M2 hole on this surface right here. Maybe we add some chamfers here and here. Maybe we added some fillets on this side and this side. Again, I would not be doing this at this point in the design. Right now, I'm intentionally trying to add multiple features in the browser tree because I want to pattern them all at the same time. So let's click on circular feature. And now for the feature, I can again come here and select the feature and the hole. I can select them individually. But if I have multiple features to select, now it's always easier to work with the browser tree. So I can select this extrusion 2, which created the block there. I can select the hole and I can select chamfer 1. I can select fillet 1. And I didn't even have to hold down the control button for this. You can just select it one by one. Now all these features, which are in total 4 features, are selected together. Now I can go to rotation axis, select the z-axis, and click OK. Notice that not only the block, but also the fillets, chamfers, and holes, everything is added to the circular pattern. That's why creating feature patterns are so helpful to help you become more efficient with your design because now you can design it one time and you can consistently apply the same features, same details, same modifications to the next occurrence or however many occurrences you want to add to your pattern, it will all be applied to it as long as you select those features for your pattern. Now this is the circular pattern. Let's delete all of this and go back to the beginning. And let's just design another sketch. And this time use the 2-point center rectangle. And let's say it's 100 millimeters in length and 80 millimeters in height. Let's finish that 2D sketch in the right-click menu, right-click, extrude, and apply 10 millimeter extrusion to it. Now let's start another sketch on this face. And I want to again add a feature on this side. And I want to use the mirror feature and create the mirrored version of it on the other side. So let's just put another rectangle here, maybe something like this. And then let's finish that sketch. And let's extrude that. I did not dimension it this time. You can always dimension it and make sure that it's fully defined. Let's apply it. It's a 20 millimeter extrusion. And then let's chamfer it just to add more feature. Let's say it's a 10 millimeter chamfer and apply. Now we added this feature here, and let's even add a hole to it, to this face, until it meets this face. Let's say this time it's not M2, it's M5, so it's a bigger hole. Let's even add a counterbore. Yeah, something like this. Let's say I want the same thing mirrored on the other side. I can use the mirror feature pattern, and I can select the feature here again. I can just select it on the 3D object, or I can, now that I want to select multiple features here again, I want to select it on the browser tree. This extrusion creates the block. I added a chamfer and I added a hole. Now all my features are selected. Now the next information I need to provide is the mirror plane. I'm going to highlight mirror plane. I can select the mirror planes from the origin folder in the browser tree, or I have access to them here too. But I like using the browser tree here because I can see the previews of them. XY plane is obviously not what I want. It's on the back of the object. XZ plane is also not what I want. It's going through the part that I want to mirror. YZ plane is the mirror that I want to use, which is right here. So let's select that, and you can immediately see the preview of the mirrored version of your design and all the features you use to create this design. Let's click OK. Now it is created. Let's say for whatever reason we want to change this 10 millimeter chamfer to 5 millimeter chamfer. Now notice that the mirrored version instantly updates, and so that saves us a lot of time. And of course, in some cases, you may not want to use YZ, XZ, and XY planes. In that case, just like how we did it with the circular pattern, we created our own work axis. For the mirror pattern, you might have to create your own work plane. So let's delete the mirror feature and select the work plane in the work features menu. Now you can place your own plane. For example, I can just put a plane here, or I can just just select this face and drag it back, and I can even assign a dimension to it. Let's say right now it's going in the negative direction, so that's why I'm going to enter a negative value, negative 45. Now it's at negative 45, and I can use that as my midplane. It's not in the middle. I intentionally put it, I could have put negative 50, that would be right in the middle, but I intentionally put it at 45, so it is actually not a plane that's going through the middle of the part. So that way you can create, use the mirror feature based on the custom work planes that you want to work with, depending on the design goals, of course. Let's click on the mirror feature, again select extrusion, chamfer, hole. For the mirror plane, now we can select the work plane. Notice that it has created a mirrored version, but this time it is going over the material, so it is not a good idea to use this. We can always click on the plane. Instead of negative 45, we can select negative 55, so it goes further this way. Now we can select mirror, select the extrusion, chamfer, hole. For the mirror plane, I can select this plane that I just generated and click OK. Now that is my mirror. This is my mirrored feature. This is the original feature. Now, if I want to make any modifications, all I have to do is change this feature here. Change the fillet, change the hole, change the extrusion. It will be instantly implemented on the mirrored version of it. So this is the mirror feature. Now let's delete everything but the initial plate. Let's delete all of this and click OK. Now, the last thing to talk is the sketch-driven feature. Compared to rectangular, circular, and mirror features, it is less common, but it is a nice to have option in the pattern menu. So let's just briefly talk about it. If I place a hole here, let's say it's an M5 hole with a counterbore, and let's just select the through all, yeah, and termination of the behavior. Yes, let's click OK and let's create this hole here. Now, as you know from the previous video and from this video, I can create a rectangular pattern here. I can equally place multiple holes this way or to the bottom. I can do it that way. Or I can create a work axis and I can create a circular pattern around that work axis. I can create a mirrored feature. I can do all of those things, but in some cases, I want to designate precise locations. I want to dimension them myself, and they may not be consistent with each other, but I want to use them for my pattern and save a lot of time. How does that work? If I click on Start 2D Sketch and select this face, I can place points. I can place a point here, I can place a point here, I can place a point here, 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 here. And of course I can dimension them. I can say that this is 30 millimeter this way and maybe 15 millimeter this way. Now it's fully defined. I can do this for each hole and I can assign specific locations to them and select Finish Sketch. Now I can select Sketch Driven Feature Pattern. For the feature, I can select the hole. Now notice that the preview is immediately available to me on the holes that on the points that I placed on the surface in the sketch that I created in the browser tree. If I select OK, it is going to place that feature on top of those points that I placed on the face. So now that's also a neat trick to use in complex geometries, complex designs. If you just want to decide where you want to put certain features, where you want to apply those features, and you don't want to use a consistent pattern like rectangular, circular, or mirror, you can take advantage of the sketch-driven patterns, and that's going to help you become more efficient. So with this video, we covered the feature patterns as well. Now is the time to go in some exercises, design some parts. We want to design parts that are used in for multiple applications. And then with some exercises, a lot of the features we talked about are going to make more sense. And then once we're done with the exercises, we are going to be ready to jump in the assembly mode and see you in the next video. Thanks.